welcome to Arts and Entertainment. I'm Deborah Gilbert, your host, and thanks so much for being here today. So glad you could join me. Another terrific show for you today. Hope you enjoy it. Well, we're going to highlight the Goodspeed musicals based in East Haddam, Connecticut, and Dan McMahon, the director of marketing, is my guest. I want to say all kinds of titles for you today because I think the world of you, but director of marketing is my guest today. And Dan, such a pleasure to have you again. Thank you for coming.
Oh, it's my pleasure to be here.
Well, as I had mentioned before we had started, you were here in August of 2020, and I thought here we are in November of 21. Really important to hear your story as well as what's happening with the Goodspeed.
Great.
So why don't we go back into your history and refresh the viewers' information about yourself. Tell us about yourself and your backstory.
Oh, about me?
Yes.
Well, I've been at the Goodspeed almost 20 years now, which is shocking. Prior to that, I grew up in Chicago and worked at a few theaters there. And before getting into the theater business, I did consumer product brand management and worked for hotels and some other things. But found theater, and here I've been for a long, long time.
Did you ever think when you found theater that you would be a performer, or did you always think you'd be behind the scenes?
You know, it's interesting because originally, I think we all want to be performers on the stage, and learn pretty quickly that you don't have the talent for it. You know, I could do community theater, but nothing professionally. And you know, I'll tell you, I did not know as a young person in high school or even in college that there were other careers in the arts or in the theater that were not performing. And I applaud all the programs now where people learn about working backstage as crew, as administrators, as all kinds of other things. So if I had known that, I probably would have found theater as a professional a lot sooner.
Tell us about finding theater. What drew you to it?
I mean, first of all, it's just there's magic that happens on the stage. Anyone who goes to the theater, I think, knows that and feels that. And to be part of it, to go somewhere every day for work where you're creating something that makes people happy and that means something, and that you create a product and see it actually happen instead of being distant from your product is just amazing. And the people that you work with are all just top drawer wonderful people.
Now, you had done other things until you had found theater.
Yeah.
Are you glad that you have switched gears from that particular background to being in theater?
Oh, absolutely. I'm glad I did the other things because, you know, having, I think, a variety of experience is really good for anybody. But my last corporate job was with a paper towel brand, and you know that gets really boring. How much can you learn about paper towels and how they're produced and how to make them better and, you know, kind of thing, as opposed to putting on a musical? I mean, that's a lot more fun.
Tell us about finding the Goodspeed. What happened?
Wow, finding the Goodspeed. So I was working at the Auditorium Theater in Chicago, which is a large presenting house like the Bushnell here in Connecticut, and doing marketing and enjoying it. But I, through a series of different projects, learned how we actually produced our own series there. And I thought, this is what I really want to do. Instead of promoting other tours coming through town, I want to be part of like rehearsing it and putting it on the stage and all that kind of thing. So the Goodspeed is a regional theater that produces everything that we do. And a job opened up, and I came to interview with Michael Price at the time. Came for a half day, flew in from Chicago, and by the time I left, he offered me the job. I accepted it and never looked back.
Tell us about the Goodspeed. What is it like? The building, the land, what's the theater like inside? Tell us about it.
Well, for if you haven't been to the Goodspeed Opera House, it is, I mean, it's obviously a landmark in Connecticut. It was built in 1876, and it's this white, gorgeous Victorian building right in the banks of the Connecticut River, and was built as a mixed-use building way back when. There was the post office and the general store and offices, and on top there was a little theater that for traveling shows. And long story short, the building fell into disrepair, and in the late 50s was going to be torn down. And some people who were preservation-minded that movement was just starting then, decided that the building needed to be saved. And so they formed a nonprofit and raised the money and restored the building. And I don't think they dreamed at that time what we would be doing in that theater 50 or almost 60 years later. But full-scale musicals that have, since then 21 have gone to Broadway, and countless others have been produced around the world and out of that tiny little stage.
You mentioned Michael Price. He's a very famous name in the theatrical community.
Oh, yeah.
Tell us what your experience was being with him. What's he like?
Well, Michael Price he's a true friend of mine and mentor, and Michael Price started that theater as a young person in 1965 or 67 and ended up running it for the next 48 years. A real entrepreneur, a producer, a showman, but an all-around great guy. And I don't have to say that any longer. He's not my boss because he's since retired, but we're in touch. And Michael, if you're watching, I still love you, but he's just the greatest guy. He was inducted, I think, just last year into the Theater Hall of Fame in New York, and is really well known and well respected.
Now, when you were here last time, you were talking about upcoming managerial changes, yet
Right.
I'm getting all kinds of emails from the Goodspeed that changes have been made. Tell us what's changed.
Right, so what changed is following Michael Price, Michael Gennaro was our executive director, and he decided to retire also. And our board at that time decided, instead of one executive director running the entire organization, we would follow the model that most other theaters do and have an artistic director who's in charge of producing and selecting the shows and the artistic vision of the organization, and a managing director who basically manages the business side of things. So they work as co-executives, and we went through a very extensive national search and selected Donalyn Hilton as our artistic director. And Donalyn actually had been at the theater for 30-some years, starting as our stage manager, worked her way up, and she was our producer, and so she was elevated to artistic director. And David Bird is now our managing director. He came from a theater in Virginia and has been through various theaters around the country, and actually was a student in the Yale Drama School for their management program.
How is it, since having just one individual running the facility, now having two, how is the Goodspeed doing having two people, if you will, being in charge?
I think it's fine, actually. It sounds odd. How do you have two bosses? But it's fairly clear the areas of responsibility. But the two of them work so well together and have made a real effort, since they're blazing this new path, to make it work for all of us, and it's been fine. They're great. We love them. They're doing a great job, and so we're really moving forward.
Well, why don't we take a moment? We have a tape that we'd like to roll for you and show what's happening at the Goodspeed. Let's take a moment and roll that.
It's a grand night for singing. The stars are bright above. The earth is aglow, and to add to the show, I think I am falling in love. Falling in love.
Chicks and ducks and geese better scurry when I take you out in the Surrey. When I take you out in the Surrey with the fringe on top. Watch that fringe and see how it flutters when I drive them high-stepping strutters. Nosy pokes will peek through their shutters and their eyes will pop.
I'm gonna wash that man. I'm gonna wash that man. I'm gonna wash that man right out of my hair and send him on his way.
Shall we dance on a bright cloud of music? Shall we fly? Shall we dance? Shall we then say goodnight and mean goodbye? Ba 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 ba.
Everything's up to date in Kansas City. They've gone about as far as they can go. They went and built a skyscraper, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 stories high, about as high as building on a ground.
Well, here's the big surprise.
What?
Hot dog! And damn my eyes.
Where's that?
It's nobody else but wonderful, beautiful.
That lady is equipped.
It's me.
Sense of industry.
It's me.
But the world is full of zanies and fools who don't believe in sensible rules
And won't believe what sensible people say. And because these daft and dewy-eyed dumps keep building up impossible hopes, impossible things are happening every day.
I am in a conventional dither with a conventional star in my eye. And you will note there's a lump in my throat when I speak of that wonderful guy.
Some enchanted evening, when you find her true love, when you feel her walk across a crowded room, and fly to her side and make her your own. All through your life you may dream all alone.
And Dan, that was just so wonderful. Why don't you tell the viewer, what did we just see?
I feel like we just went to the show. What we saw, the show we're currently doing is called A Grand Night for Singing, and it's billed as a celebration of Rodgers and Hammerstein. And it was done in New York on Broadway in the early 90s, and the whole concept is taking Rodgers and Hammerstein music and taking them out of the context of the shows they were written for and put them together in a review. What's amazing is that 60, 70 years later, these songs still are relevant. They still make sense, and each of them tells their own little story outside of the show. And what made it then fun is they took the songs and kind of, they're still the same melodies and the same words and everything, but changed the situations a little. So you saw, instead of a man singing "Surrey with the Fringe on Top," it's a woman. Or what you didn't see in the clip is from Sound of Music, how do you solve a problem like Maria with all the nuns? Now there's a man singing that about his girlfriend. And there's another one, which is probably my favorite, from Cinderella, "Why Would You Marry a Man Like Him?" And it's the two girls on our stage are looking at their cell phones, flipping through as if they're looking at some sort of dating app. And so it's amazing that this music that we all know, we love to listen to, you can now hear it and listen again and see it in the modern day. And people are eating it up. It's really enjoyable.
Well, let's hold that thought. I'm Deborah Gilbert. You are tuned into Arts and Entertainment. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back.
The innocence of youth. Is there anything any better? But soon they'll be in high school and facing all the same challenges you faced. How to make friends, how to fit in, how to be cool. We want our children to have everything they'll need to live fulfilling and productive lives. Make sure the kids in your family are among the more than 170,000 participants here in Connecticut who take part in high school sports or activities.
I've spent my whole life as a physician. I've seen how vaccines have saved people's lives, saved children's lives, saved the lives of the elderly. We now have that opportunity with COVID. We have a vaccine that's safe. We know this vaccine also, through the most rigorous scientific studies and trials, is effective. We have the opportunity to make a difference. But we can only make that difference if everyone gets vaccinated.
And welcome back to Arts and Entertainment. I'm Deborah Gilbert, your host. And again, thanks so much for being here today. Well, we continue on with the Goodspeed musicals, and Dan McMahon continues to be my guest. And Dan, one of the things that we talked about in August of last year, and here we are in the end of 2021, is COVID. How did that affect the theater last year? How are things now today?
Well, I'm much happier sitting where we are now than last year, but it was horrible. The COVID pandemic devastated the arts in general, and especially the theater business, because it's all about being in a communal space that's tightly packed, and that's the last thing we could do. So we were literally shut down. We did not have a performance for 21 months, and for a nonprofit organization to not have revenue coming in for that long is devastating. What we had to go through is furloughing most of our staff because we couldn't afford the payroll. Those who were working worked part-time at part salaries. We were incredibly thankful that our donors continued to donate to keep the organization going, because there still were expenses to maintain our campus, to pay the staff, to keep things moving along. And during that time, we tried to, what we do is produce things, and that's our job and our reason for being. So we switched to an online programming situation for a while, where we were putting programs out online. And last summer, 2 summers ago, summer of 2020, we had a few concerts on our lawn just to do something. And then this summer we blew that up. We couldn't open the theater yet, but we put a big tent in the parking lot and had a bunch of musical theater themed concerts, and actually a small musical in that tent. That was really great. People were so happy to be back. And now we've reopened. We reopened in September, and I don't know that anyone can imagine the amount of planning that went into that for safety. Every single operational thing that we do was looked at. Every single area of the building was looked at. How did we make this safe for our employees, for the performers, and most importantly for the audience? And we've reopened, and basically what we're doing is requiring a vaccination and wearing a mask while you're in. And the building has been cleaned, and we have outside air coming in, and all the things you're supposed to do, and keeping track of everybody. And to this point, we've done really well. Everyone's been very cooperative, and they're able to come and enjoy a musical again.
Let's talk about the calendar. What does the rest of 21 look like? How about 2022?
Okay, so a grad night for singing continues through November 28th. And then we just announced we'll do 2 holiday concerts. We work with this producer out of Chicago who hires incredibly talented people to do tribute concerts. So the weekend of December 9th through the 12th, we're going to have Bing Crosby and the Andrews Sisters, some actors singing their music and telling stories about them, which will be wonderful. And then the second weekend is the music of Karen Carpenter with the title of Merry Christmas, Darling. So 2 different eras, but still all focused on bring the whole family to the Opera House for Christmas. And then we're so excited that we've just announced the 22 season. We'll open in May with Cabaret, which we've never done cabaret, so that's really exciting for us. And then in the summer, we're doing a brand new musical, world premiere, in fact, of Anne of Green Gables. So anyone who's read the books, come see the show, because they're taking that wonderful story of that spirited little redhead and making it really, it's a folk rock musical, so it sounds fun and contemporary, but it's still that same story and set in the same time period. It's going to be really popular. And then in the fall, 42nd Street, which you cannot miss with that. It's thousands of tap dance steps going on. It's all tap dance all the time. And then we are doing a holiday show next holiday time. We don't know what it is yet. It's something we'll be producing. It'll be brand new, and Donalyn Hilton, who's our artistic director, is still figuring that out, but plan on being at the holidays again for Goodspeed.
One of the things that people will think about but maybe forget is the Norma Terrace Theater.
Yeah.
Tell us what that's all about.
Well, the Terrace Theater is where we have focused. We've only done new musicals there. That's all we do, are brand new musicals, kind of in a what we call a developmental production stage, where it's not quite just a reading of a script, but it's not a fully produced like you'd see at the Opera House, and have launched all kinds of new musicals out of there. It's been closed also, and unfortunately next season we will not be able to produce that yet. The COVID devastation is so deep that it's going to take us several years to get back to our right footing. So next year we've taken all these steps slowly, with opening the tent in the summer, and then reopening the Opera House finally, and then opening the whole full season at the Opera House, and then hopefully we'll get back to the Terrace after that.
Young people, do you have any kind of camp or workshops, any kind of anything for them?
Oh, great question. I'm glad you asked. Yes. We have a whole education offering for young people, from grade school kids all the way through college, and adults who want to learn. We have so many professionals that we work with, whether it's acting, singing, dancing, or some of the technical fields too, that they can come and work. We have a whole kids company classes where the kids are working with actors and choreographers and directors and learning their skills. And in the higher levels, actually, deep, in-depth master classes. And they've all been virtual for the past year and a half, but I believe we'll be working our way back into in-person some point next year.
Tell us about, for the viewer who potentially may be an actor or somebody who works behind the scenes, how do they be able to apply to the Goodspeed to work there?
Oh, please go to goodspeed.org, look at the, you go to the jobs section. So we have plenty of jobs open right now, just like everyone else. We're having a hard time filling some jobs, but also our apprentice program for anyone that wants to learn technical skills. And for actors learning to audition, there's information on there. We don't audition on site. We audition in New York, but you're welcome to do that.
The website. What will people find when they visit the website?
Well, at goodspeed.org, you'll find all the current information about what shows we're doing, what's upcoming, what the current COVID restrictions are. But you can also, there's tons of in-depth information about our past history or past productions and the research we've done on them, and background information on these performances, and video clips and photos and all kinds of information. And then, of course, all the education information that you want or need about the classes that we do.
The viewer is probably watching right now thinking, the Goodspeed, I want to go, so on and so forth. What are your thoughts, closing thoughts for them? We still have some time, but what are your thoughts that you want to share with them?
Anyone who's thinking that, please come back. I'll tell you. I was telling you earlier, Deborah, now that we have people back in the building, it was a really long 21 months having no one in that building. The theater is dark and quiet and cold, and it was so sad. And it's alive again. And what we're seeing is every performance, people are coming. It's their first time back to the Goodspeed, and a lot of them, it's the first time back to theater. So excited to be back. So I would say anyone who's thinking about it, come see the show. It's as safe as it possibly can be, and the show's incredibly enjoyable, and the whole experience of Goodspeed is back.
I think that some people may think about groups and your buses and so on and so forth. Tell us, can a large majority of people come all at once?
Oh, absolutely. We have an actual group sales department, because we in regular times, and we'll be back to next year, have tour buses coming from all over the country that they're going through the area and they'll stop and see a show. We have regular groups from all over Connecticut that come. We offer group discounts for 20 or more people, and have a whole program. We have dinner and lunch packages and all kinds of things for groups. So we welcome groups.
What is the future like for Goodspeed? As we already talked about 2022, but as we get into 23, 24, is it robust? Have you thought any further?
Absolutely. There's such a tremendous new energy in Goodspeed with our new leadership, and wanting to really continue our commitment to musicals, but we'll be doing more world premieres, we'll be doing more classic musicals. We're going to be really having some exciting things coming up for all ages. The theater audience tends to be on the older side, and we're trying to bring that younger group in, and so keep an eye. There'll be a lot of great things happening.
And your Tonys, we haven't talked about them. You have had
Right.
2 of them.
Yes,
Tell
we
us
have.
about that.
Well, Goodspeed was the first theater in the country to win 2 Tonys for outstanding regional theater and for outstanding service to the theater. So anytime you come to the theater, they're displayed right in the rear lobby. So if you've never seen a Tony up close, come on, and you can even take a selfie with it.
So how does it feel to be back?
It feels great. You know, you don't realize how much you miss your job until you don't have it. But to be back and to have the building going and people rehearsing and hearing the actors coming in and out and seeing them, the lights up on the stage, it's fabulous.
Well, we have just about run out of time. I want to thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you. It's my pleasure being here. It's great to see you.
I know it's gone fast, hasn't it?
Yes, it has. And come back to the theater.
Yes. Well, I'm Deborah Gilbert. You have been tuned in Arts and Entertainment. And P.S., if you have a guest that you would like to submit to the show, or if you would like to volunteer on the program, I'd love to hear from you. Please email me at artsandentertainment@mail.com. We'd love to have a discussion with you about that. And again, you've been tuned into Arts and Entertainment. Please tune in next time. Hope you have a super day today. Thanks again for tuning in. See you next time.